record your voice. I think I'm recording some video
Yeah.
somewhere.
I'm good
Do you
on all
want to let's
parts.
record it on? You want to record it on
Yeah, we'll
Zoom too,
record on
just in
Zoom too,
case?
just in case, just in case it screws
Yeah,
up.
just in case. All right, so I don't really have like a keen setting on this, but
That's all
the
good.
the so Braquan came over yesterday because he was supposed to try to buy my car from me, and but he started talking. He's like, "Have you heard of NFTs?" I was like, "Man, it's funny that you say that." Mark said something about that last week on the podcast. He's like, "Y'all motherfuckers doing a podcast, man?" I was like, "Yeah, man, it's like doing good, man. Like I really enjoy it." And so anyway, we started talking about that. But he was like, he brought up that NBA Top Shot. Have you heard of that?
Yep. That was on the
And
article, I think.
yeah, okay,
Yeah.
so that's what I missed. I missed that part of the article, and when because at first I was like, man, what the, like we talked about it last time, but then he was like, no, what they're doing is selling, like clips of
Clip. Yo.
time. And so I was like, oh, so you're saying like if you had Jordan at the dunk contest and you're an NBA dude down there on the floor and you recorded it and you're the only person in the world that like has that viewpoint of that recording, I could see the NFT being that's okay. I got it. Right.
Yeah.
Like that's
Yep.
the use case. So then I was like, well, how can I take that and do it? And the only thing I could think of that something like say if I was recording, I guess it's all digital media now, but I was thinking like, how could I monetize it? And so that means like if you are playing your games and you do something like super dope, like epic, right?
Yeah.
Could you could save that clip and turn that into an NFT. The only thing is it might not be valuable because you're a nobody. Is like that kind
Yeah.
of like the problem there?
Yeah. Exactly. I mean, I was about to say something like really. Anyway, so like NFTs in general is like that whole. The value is from whoever thinks it's valuable, if that makes sense, right? So like,
Collectibles kind of stuff.
yeah. So to you or to like other people, maybe like the top highlights of like like seeing Jordan dunk and getting a recording of that. It's just like, oh shit, a lot of people would pay for that. But for me, I'm like, why? I can literally just like clip it for no money and not have the authentic version. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
what's the deal? Or like, okay, here is the Mona Lisa, right? They turn that into NFT, or I can just copy it and do not have to pay for it. Like, what's the deal?
Right.
So yeah, but I mean, yeah, you can clip like epic game moments, and if people are willing to buy it, do it. Like,
Right.
because I'm doing the same thing. Like, I'm trying to like throw away the way I normally process stuff, like Peloton, right?
Right.
Because that's how you make
Right.
money. It's like if you keep thinking the way, or if I keep thinking the way I am, then yeah, obviously I'm gonna miss a ton of opportunities.
Right.
Like,
Right. That's
like the kitties. When you when you mentioned the crypto kitties, I read about
dude.
that. I'm like, what?
Right. I'm like, so you're basically saying I can get two electronic cats and mate them and possibly sell one. I saw one selling for $465,000. It's an electronic fake ass cat.
It
Like,
doesn't
dude,
do anything.
it doesn't even do anything. It's a Tamagotchi on the internet,
Yeah.
right? Like, what the hell? Now, like maybe for something worldwide, like say if it was Pokemon Go, right? And you could mate Pokemons and create new ones and then put them. But maybe that's the next level of gaming, right?
But like, what? I guess for that, why would you bring it into like this NFT type deal? I don't know. It just
Because
seems really.
I don't know. Because the dude was saying, he said that I was watching this video yesterday, and it was a good one. He was like, "This is the future of gaming, right?" He was like, "Just imagine for Fortnite, you have a bunch of NFTs, and you're the only one that could have that skin." Right. It's a certain colorway that only you have that nobody else can get. And I was just like, I kind of get that. Right. Or say you're playing like Forza or some kind of car game and you get a certain version of the car that only you have that is highly sought after. Right. And then like it's got certain color wheels or a certain interior or certain color that only you have. Like he was like, you will eventually start seeing game assets cost almost as much as the real assets in real life. And I was just, I don't really see somebody spending $10,000 for a version of a car in a game, but I get what he's saying, right?
Yeah, I see it. I can see it actually.
Yeah, let me see. I'll find that YouTube video and try to send it to you just so you could. I mean, because the way he was putting it, I was like, it started making my mind like really go at what the possibilities were, and that's why I was like, well, how can I monetize it other than trying to create a marketplace for
Yeah,
myself, our marketplace myself, and then have that. I can't really think of anything else other than that I could do. Say, because I don't have people that are like skateboarders or anything like that where I could watch them do some like epic trick and then try to sell that, because skateboarding is, everybody likes that, right? Or other than the game moment, like somebody say you do some like you've seen that thing on YouTube where it's like, I forget, Snuggly or whatever the hell his name is, and he was Ken or somebody, and like somebody was like cheesing him down, like trying to just basically like fireball him to death, and then they like try to do this last cheesy move, and he only had like a
you're talking about
he did that like comeback combo and killed him. That could be an NFT, and people would pay for that, like to be the only one that has, say, like his recording of it from his TV or something like that.
I mean, I guess, right? I don't know. It gets dangerous then. So what about, okay, let's say you convert that to NFT. Does that mean no one can watch it except for the person with that NFT?
Right. That's the part that kind of sucks. Right.
And then you get to that point to where if it's kind of like that, then you can start getting monopolies of NFTs, right? So like now YouTube is just buying the shit out of everything, and then all of a sudden YouTube is like subscription model, and you can't watch it unless you got it.
Exactly. That's exactly what Raquan was saying. That's exactly what he was saying. He was like, what does this do to YouTube? What does this do to all of that? And I was like, yeah, that's very true.
Yeah. Because I mean, we touched about it a little bit on the podcast, and then you get into like, okay, well now piracy is kind of a much bigger deal, because if you got someone who's paying out the ass for some of this content, and it's actually still really easy to copy paste it, how's that gonna look? How's that gonna play out, man? Like, I don't know.
Right.
Oh, is that the video?
Yeah, so I don't know how. Yeah, that's the link to the dude that he's talking about, so you can watch that later. But yeah, so I don't know. It sounds like, but that dude on the NBA Top Shot, he didn't sell his, and I think that's sort of foolish, right? Like, yes, you have something that right now is worth like 70 million or whatever that number is.
Yeah.
Why don't you take that? Because I mean, who cares if later on it's worth 140 million when you're still a millionaire? Like 60, 70 million is still enough to live like for generations.
Yep.
So I don't know. I think, and then if he sold it, he would still get a royalty every time. Well, no, I guess the person who recorded it gets the royalty. That was impressive too. The part I liked.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, like, it's one of those, like, it's new. How are people going to adopt it and use it? And the implications are kind of all over the place. It's pretty sweet, though. I mean, when I did first, I mean, that's why I brought it to the chat. I know Akeem asked how it works, just because Akeem is more of the tech stuff. But I was like, dude, I'm not even there yet. I'm just figuring out how this is going to affect, like, society in general. Because, like you said, right now, I mean, the crypto kitties, right? You can make a ton of money off of that. And then maybe in 5 years, 10 years, when people settle down, are like, okay, NFTs is no big deal. Crypto kitties are like not even worth anything, right?
Right.
So like to your point, take advantage, because if the value you get now is that much, that might just be good enough to like kind of cover the risk. Yeah.
And then another part that I liked about the whole thing is that it was saying it was backed by Ethereum somehow. And, people are speculating that Ethereum will become worth more than Bitcoin. But
I mean, potentially. The problem is no one really understands the crypto except for like a very small set of groups of people. So like a lot of people are kind of just hyping it up, in my opinion. Yeah. I mean, I don't really understand Bitcoin. I talk to other people about Bitcoin. They can only tell me the money aspect of it. You know what I mean? Because then like you get people talking about some of the security implications, the global energy impact and stuff. And you're like, Most of the people don't want to hear about that. They're just like,
Yeah.
how do I get mine? I mean, I get it, right? Because like, it went from what, like a few
I remember
$100.
when it was $13.
Yeah,
I remember when it
exactly.
was $13.
That's in our lifetime. That's less than 20 years. Less than.
Right.
Actually, I think it's less than 10 years, right?
Yeah, it's less than 10 years. It was
Yeah.
like 2013 or something, 2012, something like
Yeah.
that. 2013, $7.
Yeah, and you 50,000 times your value or something, or was it 5,000?
Right.
5,000 times your value. That's ridiculous. Like,
Absolutely insane.
yeah, there's
So what's the next? That's what everybody. And then like I think that's what the culture is becoming. Like everybody. I guess maybe it's always been that, and I'm just now catching on. Like maybe I'm slow as fuck. Like
yeah,
just what's the next wave? Everybody's trying to catch the next wave to getting rich quick.
yeah, because that's. I mean, Warren Buffett talks about how in order to achieve kind of like that level, it's not about. I mean, it is still about like the hard work and putting effort and stuff. But realistically, you just get lucky 3 or 4 times.
Right.
Like he says that you just get lucky 3 or 4 times and then you're set.
Right.
So you kind of
It's
have
like
to.
the perfect storm.
Yeah. So like, if you don't take huge risks, most likely you're not going to get huge payouts. So you have to figure out what are good risks for you to take. And most of the time it's going to be like GME, right? I took a huge risk on GME because someone pointed out this isn't one of those gradually build your money aspects. It's you can like, was it to the moon your money here? And I'm like, you know what? Yeah, fuck it. That makes sense. Here you go. And then I made some money and then it fucking tanked. And I'm like,
Oh, so you waited too long.
yeah, exactly. Right. So it's one of those like,
Damn.
you know, can I mean, I still plussed a little bit. It depends on what the next couple months look like. but
Right.
yeah, when I first heard about it, if I just put money in there and just taking a risk, I would have made
Right.
what, like 5 times on it in like a week. Like
Right.
that's huge.
Yeah. Yeah. And then I think said he oops, got to cut that name out. But
Yeah.
he said that he sent you the same book, The Simple Path to Wealth or something like that.
You should read that. That's actually really
Oh
good.
yeah, I'm listening to it right now.
Yeah.
And so every time I go to the chiropractor, I sit there and listen to that book. And he's, that everything he's saying is making sense, but it seems like that's the safe
Oh
way,
yeah.
right?
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're not, and even he said it like, he tried to time the market, and, if you we're not super mega rich, right? But say you put 20 grand or something into a stock, right? To me, $20,000 in a stock and hoping that it like shoots to the moon is like roulette.
Yep.
And I'm like, so I'm betting on 13 red here or 13 black with my 20 grand. That's enough to send my kid to college for two semesters, right? So, and then sometimes like when it just goes down and you lose the complete value of everything, he's like, that's enough to make people jump off the roof. Of course, not for the 20 grand, but like he's giving all those examples. And I don't know if it's hard for me to justify it. It's hard for me to justify the gamble.
To put 20 grand down?
Well, no, to say when Neo was doing well, right? The Chinese electric thing, right? Electric car place thing.
Yeah.
Right. And somebody called me. He's like, "Yo, you need to watch Neo. They're talking about it. They're saying it's a Tesla competitor over there in China, and China's got billions of people, and everybody's blah, blah, blah." I'm like, "Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. I don't know shit about the thing." Now, I got in when it was like $11, right? If I would have just pulled my balls down and fucking put 20 grand in there, I would have a decent amount of money right now. It would have been however many shares times, it went up to 70.
Yeah.
So it would have been like 10 times my money.
Yep. Yeah, man. Again, it's one of those things where I'm trying to like phrase these things in my mind with the intent of pissing the lowest amount of people as possible. But it's one of those things where it's just like, okay, 20 grand seems like a lot, but to other people, that's chump change. So like 1% of their total income is like $2 million. So like, sure, it's nothing, right? And that's kind of where it is for at least people, I think, in our position, to where we're starting to, get, because of, our jobs. It's like, okay, cool, we got some sort of money coming in, but if you want to hit that like huge gap, then we have to take a much bigger risk than people who were born into that or already have generational wealth.
Right. That's true.
Yeah.
Right.
So we can like, to us, 20 grand down is like a YOLO. To some other person, it's just like, okay, cool. It's like I dropped $1 on the ground. Like, no big deal.
Exactly. It's just like Citibank losing $500 million. And what did Tyler say? That was it's like 0.1%.
Yep.
0.01% of their yearly, like that's nothing to them.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
So I don't know. I just think that the NFT thing sounds cool. It sounds like there's a way to probably get in there somehow. I just don't want to miss. I hate missing the boats.
Yeah, I mean, I hear you, man. I missed a lot too, and there was no reason why I couldn't. It was just for some reason I just didn't want to do it. Like
right.
Like bit mining or crypto mining, right? Nothing stopped me from being able to crypto mine. I could have done it easily, but I was just like, nah, it's nothing. Who cares? No one's really gonna do anything with it. I remember one of our coworkers was talking about it back at, or well, you're still there, but they're like, crypto, man, like get into crypto. Like, I'm just here trying to work my job. I don't really care. Right. But then if I got into crypto, then I would have been needing to work my job. So I screwed myself over.
I was in the same way where I was like, I took like that when it was $13, I was like, hey guys, man, this crypto thing is like really like taking off. We all making money, right?
Yeah.
I thought 50, 60 grand was a lot of money then. I'm like, oh, we're all making money, man. We should each put $1,000 down into a rig, and we could just mine it. And they were like, no, man, that's just not going to work out. It's not going to work out.
Yep.
The one dude is still at that same place that I was working at in 2013. The other dude is now like, hey, Mike, you think I could get in where you're at? This and that. Can you help me get a job where you're at? I'm like, if you would have just fucking listened to me in the beginning, and if I had enough confidence within myself to not let them and their kind of like adversity to hard work or like pioneering out into the unknown, right? If I would have had enough self-confidence to just say, well, fuck you, I'm doing it anyway.
Yep.
I would be rich now and they would still be in the same place.
Yeah.
But, that's a part of it too. But
I mean, it's hard, right? I mean, we talked about it a little bit too, where just because of, how we grew up, like the environment we were raised in, it was like you work hard, you get good grades, you study, and then you get a good job. And you're safe, right?
Right.
But if you're trying to be rich, you can't do that. You can't play it safe. Unless you already got the money, then sure, play it safe all you want because you don't have to do anything.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Like The Simple Path to Wealth. It's actually a really good book, but it's The Simple Path to Wealth. It's not Simple Path to Being Filthy Rich, right? Because that's the simple path to being filthy rich is like YOLO on one thing and get lucky. Like that's sorry, I'm using YOLO a lot because it came up in this other podcast that I was doing.
No, man, I should start doing more podcasts because it sounds like every group of people you talk to, you just kind of do a podcast out of it now.
Dude, yeah, for me, man, it's honestly like I enjoy the hell out of talking, right? And like a lot of people that I talk to are that way as well. And everyone's got like so much to say, and there's like a lot to learn from, and I just can't remember it all. I'm like, all right, you know what? It's like my way of taking notes. Let me just write it down. So let me just record it.
I'm gonna start doing that too, and even if it's like somehow, because I talk to a lot of women, and when I talk to them, we talk about relationships, and they come to me for a 100% honest male perspective. Right.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, I give them the man code version of what they're like. Well, why did he leave me? I'm like, he left you because that other chick is super fucking hot. Okay. That's why he left. He left because she's super hot. She goes out places. She's dressed like a prostitute. I'm pretty sure she does whatever he wants because he's the kind of guy that throws money at women and expects to get what he wants. And nobody's going to tell them that. They can't go to their mom and get that kind of, like raw.
Yeah. And like, I mean, oddly enough, right? That's like kind of this whole idea that I have behind this is like giving back to the community. Right now, for me, that's focused in computer science or like, you know, the job industry. But shit like you're talking about, relationship advice, that's valuable, because it's not like relationships aren't like a science, right? I mean,
Right.
some try to treat it like a science, like if you do X, then Y happens. This is no.
Right.
It doesn't work like that. Like you gotta hear experiences from like 50 different people, and it's like
Right.
the same scenario but 50 different outcomes.
Exactly.
So to put that type of stuff out, record it, and then put it out there and see who wants to watch it, like that's valuable in my opinion. Shit, like why
Yeah, I
not?
might have to try to do that because that's all I mean, that's all we talk about when I talk to girls. And that's why I think I was dating so much. It was like a science experiment to me. And I'm just like, I wasn't trying to like run through chicks as fast as I can to get as much butt as I can or something like that. I was really like just taking in everything so I could, have you seen that YouTube video? It's like a little cartoon. It's called The Egg.
No.
Oh man, dude. So anyway, it breaks down reality in this weird thing where it's like basically quote unquote God. They even say that, you know, there's like, I want some people, I guess, call God, right? I'm going to paste it in here after a while, but he's basically saying that every experience that you're not an evolved like consciousness until you've experienced every experience there is to experiencing. And even though you are you and I am me, you are still me and I am still you. It's like we're the same thing, just experiencing it from two different perspectives.
Yeah.
Right. And oh gosh, it's a cartoon, and I let my kids watch it because, you know, they still ask, they know that I'm not religious at all or anything like that. So I let them watch it, and I'm like, currently that's how I think reality is working, and this and this and that. So it's just super interesting. I've been watching that Tom Ballou dude, and that was one of the other things I wanted to talk about, was the concept of self. I'm hearing a lot of things lately that are saying that our concept of self is false, and that what we think as, you know, that part where you say I and me and all of that, like that doesn't actually exist. It's just an idea in your head, like everything else.
Yeah. See, and okay, we're
off the NFT thing. We're going off the NFT path.
I'm gonna like tangent a little bit, just a little bit, because I actually do want to come back to this. But in my mind, this doesn't really align to the tech stuff that we want to talk about, right?
Okay. All right. Yeah.
But this is what I want to talk about. So then, how does this fit in? You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So it's tricky, but also this is why I talk to like multiple people. That's why I'm trying to talk to like my other friends who, you know, we did one on why we're starting a podcast. That was my last podcast. We're talking about doing one with a couple of my other friends about what it was like growing up as a Filipino in America, right? And you know, when you talk about this type of stuff too, I'm like, that should be its own separate thing for sure, because it's not techie. It doesn't really respond to that audience, but I feel like it's super important. But anyway, that's my little tangent.
Yeah.
So think on that. Okay,
all right.
Because we got to figure out how
let's table that then. Let's table that for another conversation.
No, I'm gonna do it now because the second really good. I want to do that now, bro. No, because I have been like playing with that idea in my mind. Sorry, unless you actually really want to table it. It's up to you.
No. Okay. Dude, I don't care.
Okay.
As far as I'm concerned, we could chop this and put it into somewhere else.
Yeah, that's true. That's fair. All right. But yeah, so I have this idea that, like, when we talk about good and evil, or good, bad, or whatever outcomes, like to me, that's not real. Right. It's literally, you have a choice. That's at the end of the day, that's all you got. You either choose to do it or choose not to. Right. And it's like, it sounds like, oh no, it can't be binary. But at the end of the day, yes, it is. It's just, there's so many, like the unit of that individual choice isn't what people think. Like when I choose to eat or not eat, that's not the decision you're making. It's much, much deeper. It's just really hard to understand. So you start generalizing, right? So it goes to what you're saying, where like the idea of self isn't it's not what we think, because when we talk about self, we add all these extra implications, and it's actually like a malformed view of what the true self is. But
Right.
but trying to figure out what it actually means is like, you're gonna go crazy, because like, how do you even start conceptualizing that shit? It just doesn't.
That's the
Yeah, you'll spend like your entire life trying to figure out something, and you'll never understand it. And
Where's this video? I gotta send you this video,
dude, man.
Tom Ballou, dude. Yo, the Tom Ballou dude is blowing my mind with his stuff.
Yo, I honestly,
So wait,
if this is the stuff you want to talk about, like, I say we just fucking like we
cut this one.
no, we don't. I mean, we can or whatever, but like, I would love to talk more about this type of shit.
All right, yeah, because I'd have like that's what I'm on right now.
Yeah,
like
yeah,
that
yeah,
whole
yeah.
thing is entirely what I'm about. But there was something that you said. You said when you make a decision. Oh no, you said right and wrong, right? Yeah, like I forget where I heard it, where I read it, where I saw it. I don't know, but it was like there is no right and wrong. There just is.
Yeah,
And that's it. And then I was listening to this other lady, and she was saying that, you know, like everybody's talking about karma. Oh, and you do this and it's wrong and you have bad karma. Like the way we think about karma isn't even how it was originally intended. So like that's a whole other story. But she was just like, you know, do you know why there's a whole shit ton of bad people that just seem like they always prosper and do it? Because it doesn't fucking matter.
Yes.
It doesn't matter.
exactly, right? Exactly. And it's like, but it's such a weird thing to say out loud, because people are like, you're just an asshole or something. Like, no, that's
Right.
not right. And I'm like, I mean, it kind of is.
It's exactly like, yeah, like that's why, you know, the schemers, and it's like, and that's what I tell the kids. That's the main thing. Like if I died tomorrow and there was like one thing I wanted them to remember, it would be like this. In this reality, you can do whatever you want to do. The only rule is you have to be willing to accept the consequences of your actions. And even then, you can modify those however you can modify them, right? Like,
Yeah,
say if
exactly.
you go out and shoot somebody in the head, and the cops are after you, you could either A, choose to turn yourself in, B, have a shootout with the cops, and maybe kill all the cops and still get away, right? Like, who knows what kind of outcomes you have. You just have to be willing to deal with whatever the ripple effects are from your actions. Like, that's the only law of the universe, right?
Yeah.
You do something and something else happens. That's it.
Yeah. Yep. No, exactly. Like, a lot of these other things are just like a layer that humans have added on top
Exactly.
of like what.
Oh,
but
yeah.
yeah, at the end of the day, there's nothing else other than
Right.
you do something and you deal with the consequence. That's it.
Exactly.
That's
Yeah.
it.
And then when the lady was just breaking down, like, we're gonna have to. I don't know how we're gonna chop this up and get to this other thing, but when she was saying like there's a book, and I put it on my thing on Audible, but she was saying that it's back to the concept of self. Like, humans are just happen to be a perfect combination of atoms and proteins or whatever the hell, the minerals or whatever the elements are in the universe that make us up. We just happen to be the perfect combination of those things that make us think and make us have this concept of self. And I'm going to send it because she says it so much more eloquently.
Yeah.
Dude. So anyway, let me see if I had any other topics. I don't want to go too far in that because, like you said, that's a whole other thing.
Are you sure, man? I would.
Yeah, well, let me let's get the tech topics out so we can at least there's that.
All right,
but to get the tech topics out. So I don't even know if we need to. Let me see. No, because everything else I have is about that kind of stuff. The only thing for the podcast is the only thing for the tech podcast was
See, Akeem and Tyler are here, and we just like derailed the way we usually do.
Yeah, right. So we had to do the thumbnails, and I don't know when we're gonna
Oh
actually
yeah.
start sharing this, but I let my brother hear one, right?
Hmm.
And I let him hear the one where I said my brother's like an Instagram fiend and blah 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 blah, and I
Yeah,
was
yeah.
like saying all this stuff, and he was like, yeah, that was great, except for the part where you basically shitted on me and said that I'm an Instagram fiend, and this and that. I was like, I said it to your face. I was like, it's not like I was talking behind your back, and I let you listen to it,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
So
yeah.
it's like I say that to you all the time. I say it's a fucking problem, and it's annoying as shit when you do it. Um, so now I understand fully the how careful and filtered you have to be
It is,
when,
man. It's
yeah, yeah.
yeah, we
Because I mean, even though I
yeah.
didn't care, I didn't like him to have to experience that. And he's very sensitive about me sharing stuff about him
Yeah.
to other people, right? But me, when somebody tells me some bad things or something they don't like about somebody else, I don't use that when I go and interact with that person, right?
Hmm.
Like that might just be some things. I probably forgot, so I don't even give a shit anymore because I forgot. But I deal with like people as a fresh slate. Like if somebody says, "Man, Mark's a fucking asshole," like it doesn't matter what you do to him, man, what you say to him, no matter what he does, he's gonna stab you in the back and kill you, right? When I met you, I was like, "Oh, what's up?" And if you, I that's that other person's experience with you.
Yeah, yeah,
You might not act like that with me,
yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
So whatever.
Yeah, no, I mean that
So
makes sense. Damn, maybe you should have been on that one. The one we did, so the podcast I did was how do we brand ourselves, right? Because essentially that's what we're all trying to do. At the end of the day, like we're trying to brand ourselves as a group. With this, we're trying to brand ourselves as kind of like individuals when we talk. And like one of them was how do we want to be perceived? And I kind of went into like what you're talking about, where everyone's perception of you is in one way, but unless you actually go out and talk to them and figure out how they actually are, you ain't gonna know.
right.
And I forgot what point I was trying to make with this. I started
Oh,
rambling and talking, and I'm
yeah, because
like,
I know it's like when I
wait,
was
what?
saying, I don't care how people if you do, like talk
Oh yeah,
shit
yeah,
about yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Because it also okay. I'm gonna tie it back to this whole sense of self thing and the right and wrong. It's just like, damn, I'm gonna piss off some people with this. If someone does something wrong, like, and then they get kind of outcasted for it, it doesn't mean they can't bring value into your life if you interact with them, right?
Right. Right.
So it gets into that weird gray area where it's just like, oh yeah, don't talk to them because they're X sort of way. But then you end up talking to them, and somehow, some way, it makes you a better person, right?
Right.
It makes you better. It makes you more valuable, or even like the community more valuable. But if you like outcast someone just because they do something wrong, then all of a sudden you lose that. But you can never tell whether or not it's going to be like a positive or negative experience unless you experience it. And then
Right.
that's the whole, okay, do you take the risk or do you not? And then which ties into the fucking shit you buy with stocks, right? Like you don't know the value, so you got to take a risk or don't. Like it's
Yeah.
in my
Yeah.
mind, like all this shit is connected. And that's
Yeah.
like the way this whole thought process, like I've been trying to like piece together, the more I start to learn that like the generalizations like good and bad or like, whether I should or shouldn't, it's like, okay, just fuck it. Do I feel like I
Right.
want to do it? Yes. All right, I'm going to do it. Do I
Right.
not? Then there. Like, don't think too
See.
much on it. Just because thinking too much on it, you'll just end up in this place where you just won't do anything. And then you're guaranteed to have no improvement, no value.
Right. Exactly. And see, you're lucky because you're learning that at an earlier age. Like most people don't come to that kind of conclusion
Yeah.
until they live about 30 to 40 years. Right? Like that's I think the average humans like that's why I think people call it a midlife crisis, but to me it feels more like you start realizing like, okay, I've lived about half of what most people consider to be a lifetime. All right. So am I happy with where I am at now? And then you're like, I wish I could do this and I wish I could do that. And then I think when you get there, when you start thinking about a countdown instead of you're getting older, you're thinking about how much longer do I have to live until I die?
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Then you start taking things in a different perspective and saying, you know what? I don't give a fuck if you don't like it, if this person doesn't like it, if my mom or dad doesn't like it, I'm going to go for it because who knows how long I have left. And I don't want to regret not doing that. Right. And I think
Yeah.
that's where I'm definitely getting to now. Cause I know my mom never really she never wanted me to get tattoos. Right. And now I'm like, I'm on my way, right?
Yeah.
Like I'm supposed to get all of this done, and I just don't care anymore. Like, sorry, mom, I
Yeah.
don't give a fuck, right? This is not your life.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
yeah,
like to go on that a little bit, if you look at, I'll call the average life cycle of we'll go with America just because I know it's not like this in everywhere. But you come
right,
up, and you're basically living your life for someone else, right? You go to school, you get the grades. I mean, sure, it's for you, but primarily it's for the school, right? It's for the education. It's for, like, you benefit from it for sure, but you're not really thinking that, like, oh, this is for me or for my future. Just because you're a student and you're not really taught to think like that, it's more or less like focus on the grades, right? And then you come up for a job, okay, focus on promotions, which does, again, benefit you, but it's, again, for the company, right? Constantly
right,
thinking of stuff. How do I improve the company? How do I improve the education? And then you get to a point to where, like, you start to think, how much time do I have left, right? So it's the shift of, I have all the time in the world,
right,
to how much time do I have left? And that's that point, I think, that midlife crisis you're referring to where you actually start going, shit, I need to start doing things for myself. And so
right,
you try to make sense of all of it, but the traditional ways and the more sciencey ways doesn't make sense because,
right,
like, you talk about the self, like, what the hell does that even mean? You can't make
right.
sense of it unless you start, like, exploring these weirder areas and approaches to life in general. And that's
Yep.
why you start, shifting over, and then everyone looking at you from who's in their lifetime of, like, no, I still got time. I don't have to worry about that. They just can't see what you can see because they're not
Right,
there.
right.
But
Yep.
it's just like you realize it so late. But that's kind of the stuff, in my opinion, that helps you throughout your whole life. Like, it should be shared. Like, how do you deal with stress and all that? You definitely figure out how to cope a lot easier with the stuff you learn about when you try to understand the sense of self a lot more, as
Yeah.
opposed to, like, I don't know, how do I study for a science test? You know what I mean?
Right, right, right. Because
Like,
I remember it's similar to like you said so many good things there. Isn't it like this dude? He's like one of my ex girlfriends. Her father, I used to work for him. Is how I've probably told the story before. How I started my entire business previously is because he was my mentor. Right, he had the business already up and running. I worked under him for 2 years. I outgrew his kind of like, I don't know, authority and decided to go out and do it on my own. And then I lasted for 7 years. I didn't, it's not like I went out of business. I just quit. I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. But
yeah, yeah,
anyway, he always used to say young blood, because he's like 55. He's probably almost 60 by now. He's like, yo, young blood. He's like, you don't see it now, but I'm telling you, man, it's going to hit you this and this will happen and you'll start seeing this. I'm like, man, fuck that. I'm not even trying to hear what you're saying. Like, what you're saying makes no sense. But then since I'm still very cool with him, like he's still like a dad to me. Like when I finally do see what he was saying, I was like, man, remember all those years ago when you told me this, that? I was like, I just had that damn moment. He's like, I told you. He's like,
yeah.
but you're not going to see it until it's time for you to see it.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I'm dealing, and the whole midlife crisis thing feels like it's once you start saying, wait a minute, who I think I am, who I think I'm supposed to be, what is self, what is this reality? It's like a reset button. It's almost like resetting your entire operating system to factory settings because now you can't believe anything that came before now.
Yep.
You're like, everything that I might have learned might have been bullshit. Now I have to refactor and relearn everything. And for some people, that maybe that's why it's called like a crisis, is because it's like an
Yep.
entire clearing and cleaning of your entire self at that point.
Yeah, yeah.
So
It's like the
yeah,
Matrix,
so
like you pointed out.
it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
You can start
Exactly.
seeing the source
Yep.
code. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly, man. Like you pointed out to me at work, you're just like, dude, you're like turning into a robot now. It's just like my way of kind of balancing out, like you've seen it, right? I take a lot of life situations and I take my engineering stuff and I go, bam, it's the same thing. And then
Right.
I explain it to a couple other people who are just like, I ain't hearing that. I don't know what you're talking about. I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, dude, this makes perfect sense. Like, blah, 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 and all this stuff. It's just I applied the engineering stuff to it. So I took like
Yeah.
the previous part of my life and applied it to this new section of my life where I'm starting to explore more of the sense of self and whatnot. We'll just call it that because I don't know the humanities aspects.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't even know if that's humanities. Philosophical. I don't know.
Was it what is that word they say? It begins with an E.
Ethics.
Nah, it's like I can't remember the word. I don't know what the word is. But
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
like to deal with it's dealing with reality, right? Like,
Yeah.
so, but anyway, yeah, no. So sense of self and all that stuff. I got to find that. I think I put that other video in there.
Yep.
Like it's like an hour and a half, but when she starts questioning that stuff, it was like mind blowing. What else do I got here? So letting go of things, right? Like I look around, like even right now when I was cleaning off this desk to try to make room to put all this shit, like my son came down here and he was like, you know, he's like, that's a sick setup, Dad. You know, like this and this and that, like because I was trying to get him to do streaming and podcasting, but it's like since he was only 10 or something at the time, you know, I look on here and I see these little girls are like 10 years old making millions of dollars, but I wonder if it's because they wanted to do it or if their parents are putting it up to them, putting them up to it. But anyway, I tried to get him to do it. He was sort of interested. He did Twitch for a little bit, but he didn't do it. But I think seeing me do it and seeing the setup then like what it takes is a little bit more technical and tangible for him other than me just saying you should do a podcast. So I think he's getting more interested in it now. But anyway, like I was saying, as I was cleaning off stuff this desk, I was like, man, I have a lot of shit, right? Like I have just a lot of shit that I probably don't use. It's got dust on it. Like, why do I have these things? Like, it's even to the point where I'm like taking socks out of my, like, these are things that I've washed, right? Like socks and underwear or whatever. And I'm like taking it and I like lift up the pair of underwear and it's got like holes all in the shit. And I'm like, why? Like, I'm acting as if I can't afford to buy new fucking underwear. Right? Like, all I got to do is throw the fucking underwear away and get more to replace it. But I think that's a big thing that a lot of people do. And it starts coming into things like relationships where you hold on to things that from past relationships that might be hurting you emotionally that you're unaware of, but you feel like you're supposed to hold on to it because it has like that sentimental value, even if there might be trauma associated with it.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm like, so I'm just like going through all my shit. I'm like, man, I really need to like throw away probably like 80% of the shit that's around me in this house.
Yeah.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
I actually like that. Like you've been able to relate that to relationships, right? Because what I was gonna say is you've seen Marie Kondo, right? Like on Netflix. So Marie Kondo is like this Japanese woman who was like an advocate for basically tossing out all this extra stuff that you have in your house, right? So
Like a minimalist kind of thing.
yeah, yeah. But a lot of the approaches she takes is a lot of good approaches to relationships as well. Like letting go of things is kind of that whole mantra behind it, except with items, with clothing or, you know, clutter around your house and stuff like that. But it's also a very good tip for relationships. Like there are things you just should let go, and as much as you want to keep it, as much as it brought you so much happiness back in the day, if it's not giving you any value now, you're
Right.
better off letting it go. And it sucks and it hurts, but it did good back then. But now it's just there. It's just adding stuff to you to think about that you actually don't normally need to think about. So
Right.
why do you have
Right.
it? Right?
Yep. It's like it comes down to me, you know, I was dating that girl that used to work with us. She still works there. I still work there, but we don't see each other. But anyway, so I have like we went out a couple places. I have like these cups or whatever from these various different places that I went to. I had this T-shirt that she took and like wore for, you know, she would wear it every night to bed.
Yeah.
Wherever she took a T-shirt from me and would wear it every night for bed. And like for a while, it's so like weird and stalky and weirdy, but like I didn't wash it for a while I didn't wear it, but I didn't wash it either, so I could still see, like, still smell
Yeah.
her, like, her shampoo and all that shit. And after a while, I was just like, you know, that shit isn't coming back. You know, every now and then she'll call me and we'll hook up or something like that, right? But for the most part, that was a traumatic, like, that relationship was like a traumatic tear apart for me. And it wasn't just tearing apart from her. It was like tearing apart like a person that I used to be.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I could, after that, I could no longer go back to being how I was. It just so happened, it felt like she was the messenger to get me to finally decide to just say, I can't be this person anymore, because it was like why she left. Right.
Yeah.
Pretty much is what it comes down to. And so, but when I see those cups, right, like I can't even drink out of those cups or see them without thinking about her. And then it sends me into a spiral of like emotion, and it's so unnecessary. I should just throw the fucking cups away. I haven't gotten to that point yet. I did, because I like the cups, but it's the same thing.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. And I mean, like, there's honestly multiple approaches to that, right? Because you could throw away the cup and be done with it, right? Which isn't a bad approach. Or you can also learn how to live with it and start drinking out of the cups. But it's one of those things where you kind of touched on it. Like, who are you today? Like, what type of person are you today? Is that the type of person you want to be? So, and that's going to really determine how you choose to approach it. But again, it goes to this whole idea that we keep coming back to of like, you really need to understand what self means, which is like damn near, again, impossible. But that's really what you got to work on. And if you don't realize that you got to work on it until like your midlife, then you're kind of behind the game.
Yeah. I mean, you guys are lucky these days, right? Like, you guys have a lot more information at your fingertips than I did. When I was in high school, there were only like people who really had like parents that had good jobs, had computers and money and the internet, right? Like, and the internet was, even then it was slow. Right? Yeah. So I remember when Facebook was just coming out. And people were like, hey, are you on Facebook? I'm like, man, I'm not getting on that bullshit. I was like, see if I could do it 5 years ago when I was 15. I'm like 19 now. I'm not getting on Facebook, you know? And, you know, like, so there's like, you guys have so much, and it's like right now we're in the middle. I think like humanity overall is in this, it's a slow moving thing, but it's like this mental and emotional evolution that is happening. You could see it with like the protests, like, and I wanted to touch on that. Like, I'm seeing like, every now and then I'll look and I see Apple and it'll say some shit like, oh, you know, Asians are protesting because there's some kind of like, I don't know, there's like some kind of movement going on where there's like hatred, there's Asian heritage hatred or something like that. And I haven't read it, but I'm just like, what the fuck is going on? Like, do you know anything about that? I mean,
a little bit.
Okay.
Basically, like, there's a lot more attacks on Asians for whatever reason. I don't exactly know what started it all.
Yeah, it just came out of nowhere, it seems.
Yeah, if I'm gonna speculate, it might be because of COVID, right? Where that so like when COVID first came out, in my mind, I'm like, okay, well, you know, there's gonna be this whole thing about, hey, Chinese people have COVID or something. Like remember, bird flu had the same effect, so that's where I think it stems from. But yeah, I mean, honestly, like I've been so disconnected from the world just because of COVID. I mean, like,
right.
I left my house today, but you know, I talk about, I told you, like, yeah, I don't go out. I thrive in a box. So given the opportunity to be accepted as someone who lives in a box is like, yeah, I'll take it 100%. Give it to me.
Hell yeah. Some girl hit me up today like, hey, you have any time to go to an early happy hour today? I was like, I don't know, like, who you think I am, but hey, random call, let's go to happy hour. I got 2 kids here, right? So you want me to go, like, get in a car, go take a risk of catching COVID, even though I really don't care about that part, but like, and go get drunk to do what?
Yeah.
Right. I was like, I have a podcast I need to record, right? I have things that I'm trying to do. She's like, why don't you live a little? I was like, actually, I am living.
There we go. Yeah, man. Like,
Like that's what I'm doing. I'm trying to like follow some dreams here, and you're talking about going out and distracting myself from it by going out to spend money and drink.
yep.
I got liquor here.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, I'm glad to hear that, dude. Like, honestly, when you said like, "Oh, the podcast is something that actually like helps me get out of that funk," I forget what you actually said, but basically, you use
Yeah,
the
again, like
podcast, yeah,
therapeutic.
yeah. Like for me, that's it too. Like, I look forward to doing this type of stuff. It's also why I'm doing it a lot more, even though it's outside our group, just because I like find it super fun. So I'm trying to
Yeah,
explore it more because if I can turn this into an actual job, right, to where I'm
right,
getting paid to do this,
right.
and I also really enjoy it because I'm the one kind of holding the content. As long as that,
Exactly.
obviously you can turn it into that position to where you're doing content for others and now you're working for other people and you
Right,
kind of screw yourself over. That's not my goal.
right,
Like
right,
being able to say, "Hey, you want to run a podcast? We'll just talk. We'll talk through it. If a lot of people like it, cool." And then you just get ad revenue and affiliates, right?
right.
That would be dope. I
Dude,
would love to do that. 100%.
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. Like when Raquan was here yesterday, you know, he said something because we were talking about the same thing, like, oh, we were missing opportunities,
Yep.
NFTs, we could be rich. I told him, I was like, I played like 450 hours of Division 2 last year. And he was like, he's like, just calculating that. He's doing like some math. He's like, let's just say you posted that on YouTube, and let's just say you only got something thousand views per whatever for 70% of the time, whatever the calculation was. He was like, basically, you missed out on 40 million views by not just streaming it and putting it online. It doesn't matter, right? And
Yep.
I was just like, because I told him like the podcast and the streaming thing on YouTube is like when people say, "So what are you doing now?" I'm like, I'm gonna finally follow this dream I have of playing video games, streaming it online, and talking. And they're like, at first they kind of laugh at it, but then they're like, you do have the kind of personality that shit would probably be funny. Like, and if you play a lot of video games, I was like, because and then we started talking about, I was like, it's not to jump, but we're talking about
That's fine.
like getting wealthy or getting rich. And I was just like, I was like, I'm starting to get to the point where I'm like, would being like, say right now, if I had $20 million in the bank, what would I be doing differently right this second? And I was just like, maybe I'd be in Tahiti, right? My son would be still sitting here playing video games on this computer. Maybe it's not here. Maybe it's in his room. I would still be thinking about what are we going to eat for dinner, but I might have a chef that does it maybe. And I was like, and I might not be in this house, but I would probably still have a friend over talking about the things that we're talking about, thinking about what we're going to eat for dinner. So like, I was like, I'm starting to get down to the point where it's like, is the effort and the pain and the sacrifice that I'm going to have to go through to get the amount of money that I consider rich worth it at this point? Or do I just finally be happy with what I have? Because it's not like I'm starving, right? It's not like we're dying. And it's funny because as soon as I kind of said that, I watched this YouTube video and the dude was saying the same thing. It was the dude that wrote The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. He was on the Tom Ballou thing. And he was just like,
Oh, the book?
yeah,
Oh, okay, okay. Yeah. Mark.
yeah, Mark Manson.
Manson. There you go. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and he's got a new book out saying everything is fucked or something like
Yeah, I
that.
have them
And so,
both.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I have one of or two of them. Like I think the relationship one and the because he wrote Models, I believe too.
Oh, I didn't know that. I just know
Yeah,
the solo art and the other
yeah.
one. Yeah.
So he was just like, I try not to think of things like when I think of success, I try not to think of the good parts that come with it. Our brain is automatically wired to think of all the good things that would come along with the success that have. He's like, I try to think of it in the terms of the sacrifice and the problems that I would want to solve. And he was like, when people look at you and they're like, man, he's got a great show, he's on YouTube, he's got millions of followers and this and this and that, man, that must be great. They're like, but they're not thinking about there's a whole crew here and there's all these people and there's all this legal shit you got to do and there's all these problems that you were willing to take on to get this success.
Yep.
Right. He's like, so when you think about success, think about it in that form. And that's kind of where I was going. It's funny. Like I said, I had that conversation about the Tahiti thing before I saw that. I was like, that's exactly what I was just saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, especially in like you talked about how you say our generation is lucky, right? I'll say the millennial above, below, whatever. Like millennial and then Gen
Right.
Z and
And
Gen,
younger.
yeah, I don't know what the, yeah, millennial and younger, there you go, are
Yeah.
lucky, right? I don't think it's that cut and dry, to be honest, because you get a lot of information overload, and you also now have to deal with this idea of, are you sure that what you're seeing is reliable? Because I mean,
That's
you,
true.
you got a lot of influencers who are like, I'm successful because like blah 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 blah. Like, look, I got a Lambo, I got all of these like mansions and stuff, and people are like, oh, cool, I can just do that, and then there. And so instead of realizing that it still takes a lot of tremendous effort, failure, work, stress, just to get to where they are, they don't realize that. So now all of a sudden they fail one or two times and they stop, right?
Right.
But then they stop and they have nothing to fall back on because they're just like, I wanted to do this one thing and I didn't do it. So now I can't do anything. I'm worthless, right?
That's true.
And you hit
That's true.
this, what I'll call early life crisis of like, I can't do it when this person can do it. Like, what's wrong with me? And that's because,
Right.
to your point, no, it's really hard to realize the amount of effort it takes to go through all these things. Like even Bitcoin, a ton of people bought Bitcoin, bought a bunch of fancy cars. IRS comes knocking, repo, just because they didn't know
Really?
taxes. Yeah, because like you can't just sell your Bitcoin and
Not
use it
report
all.
it.
Yeah, exactly, right. So then you,
Oh,
yeah,
yeah. That's crazy.
but I mean, to be fair, I didn't even really understand how taxes work. I mean, technically, I still don't really understand how taxes work, but I have a better sense of it to at least go, hey, I should probably worry about that. But yeah,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it's just those things you take for granted when you see someone who's like really successful. Like you brought up the legal stuff. Like if we blow up in terms of like
Right.
our podcast stuff, we're going to talk about LLCs. We're going to talk about getting retainers for lawyers just because if we get sued,
Right.
you don't want to react to getting sued. You want to be
Exactly.
proactive on that.
Yeah.
See,
Exactly.
I'm aware of that, but I also have no idea what that means. Like, it's only because I watch Suits. Like, you know what I mean? Like
Who?
Suits. This is an old TV show. I guess it's
Oh,
old, but
Suits.
yeah,
Okay. Yeah. I think I've seen the
yeah,
previews for that or something.
yeah. But it's
Yeah.
it's entire like okay. And then we talk about switching over to podcasting as our job. All right, then how do you deal with healthcare, right? Because right
Right.
now we always get it through our job, but then the moment, like, let's say we make equivalent with podcasting, right? Is that good enough? I have no idea.
Right.
I don't know because also like filling out your W-2 and all that other forms and shit. Apparently the company takes care of you.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah,
they say to get the and that's a common misunderstanding so when the reason why you get a discounted healthcare is because your job is paying the other part for you and they get a
yeah,
discount.
yeah,
Like that's the only they get a bulk discount and they make you pay the remainder.
exactly.
And yeah, I didn't know that really until I think I started working at my current place, and I'm just like, because I didn't pay attention. I'm just like, well, I got a job, give me my health care.
Yeah. So then again, it's like so us because we came from this job perspective, like okay, we have a better sense of what's gonna hit us if we do, become rich and famous. What I'll call with podcasting, video, whatever. We have a
Right,
better
right, right.
sense. Like okay, I've heard about these things, but if you're young and you see someone trying to get 1 million views on TikTok, you could like end up losing a ton of money just because you didn't account for it.
Right.
But
Yeah. I
yeah,
mean, then you also have to have the mental preparedness to handle the money, right? And
yeah,
I know a lot of religious type of spiritual sayings will say you only receive what you're ready for, right?
yeah.
So, like if somebody dropped $1 million on my lap right now with no strings attached, and you always got to say that, like, so if somebody just said, "Here's $1 million," you don't have to pay any taxes on it. Nobody has to die. You don't have to like lose an arm or
Nobody.
do whatever
I
it
like
is
how you
to
put
get
up.
to.
No one has to die because in my mind I'm
Yeah.
like, who died? Like who's
Yeah,
gonna
who
kill?
died to give me
Yeah,
$1 million? Yeah, so no strings attached, $1 million. Here you go. This is a tax-free, no death insurance. Like nobody's hurt. You don't have to give up anything. Free money, right?
yeah, yeah,
Like I know, even with what I know, I would still blow so much of it
yeah.
just because. Just because, like, I would, of course, I would go pay off debt first because I'm not that much of a savage, right? I'd go pay off debt. I'd probably pay off a house, which may or may not be a good idea at this point, right? Like, do I want to live here forever, or do you keep that asset forever? Like, whatever. So pay off the house, pay off all the debt. We're talking, that's a lot of money. That's a lot of it right there.
Yep.
And then I'm not gonna let somebody drop $1 million in my lap and not get a sweet ass car. I'm sorry. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
I know what I would. It's going to be a sweet fucking car. I'm going to do it. You probably end up buying a better house or a bigger house, more expensive. And then there you go. $1 million is gone like that.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
So that's why some motherfucker isn't coming to drop $1 million on my back. Is because I'm just going to go blow through it and make an idiot of myself. I'm not ready for it yet. I'm not on the vibration. I'm not on the wavelength ready to accept the responsibility of dealing with that much money yet. So until that's how I always take it. Like the law of attraction, there's some of it I don't believe. There's some of it I don't understand. But from what I understand is you can only, it's like, it comes back to the Neo thing. Like you can only see and have access to the wavelength that you're on. Like when something outside of your or lower on your lower wavelength than you comes and tries, but you automatically dismiss it because you're like, that's beneath me. I'm not even entertaining that. That's bullshit, right?
Yeah.
But and then like trying to jump up and grab something outside of your wavelength that's above you is always kind of feels like it's out of reach because you don't understand what you need to do to make it easily just come to you.
Yeah.
Right. So I take the law of attraction like that. You have to find things, only things on a matching wavelength will come into your realm of opportunity, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, I haven't heard that, but like it makes a lot of sense to me. And it's again one of those things you can take that and apply it to like multiple aspects of your life, and it'll help you out. And if you really understand the wavelength idea, and if it makes sense to you in your head, you can like act like you have experience in a ton of stuff just because you can relate it to that base idea. And which is what I've been doing with like life. The base idea for me has been engineering. And so everything around engineering, everything around in my life, I'll apply back to engineering. And it's just like, okay, this is a lot easier to process stuff. Like everything in my brain looks like a system diagram.
So you're saying like the better engineer you become, the more able you are to navigate the situations that come to you in life.
Yeah. Like
because you adapt it.
Yeah. Like remember I talked about the learning process, right? And I broke it down. Like the learning service is a block, and then it takes an input of like your senses, which is like your eyes, your ears, your sense of smell, touch, whatever. And it processes it, and then I'm gonna like super cut this short, but it'll output knowledge that you actually want to retain, and then stress, right? So it's like this flow diagram in my head. I'm like, this makes perfect sense to me. And then I can add little blocks when I need to. Like, okay, I need something to manage my stress. What is that, right? Okay, so for now, what makes sense to me is spirituality, right? So it's a plugin, right? Plugin style architecture. Cool, plug it in. And I mean, like
then the stress like reroutes to the
plugin. Exactly.
And then like goes, that's sweet.
And like I can visualize it because there's not a lot of.
Do you draw these things?
I draw them in my brain, my head.
Oh man, dude, draw that in real life. I need to see that. Like that could become like, you know how like people have cat posters, right? Like, it's like do good, right? Like instead of that, it could be a poster of your learning service that has I would buy that, right? NFT that shit.
NFT, there we go. Yeah, man. I mean, and
I would probably buy that.
Yeah, and that type of ideas yet I haven't brought to the podcast because it's still. I mean, I've told you, like I talk to myself a lot. I actually mentioned this on another podcast where I'm constantly talking to myself. I'm talking out loud, just because it helps me, and it also helps me understand these types of topics where it's like it doesn't really make sense. It's not really sciencey, so it's like a more philosophical understanding of self type deal. And talking out loud helps me work through all that. Yeah. And that's kind of the output that I've gotten.
Yeah, I definitely like when it comes, like that's why a lot of times if I try to explain something and I can hear it not making full sense in my head, I kind of just cut my explanation short and say, you got to watch this video or you got to listen to whatever I because what I'm talking about is not going to make any sense to you. It's just going to confuse the shit out of you and probably turn you off from whatever it is that I'm
Yep.
trying to present.
Yeah. Because like at the end of the day, if it makes sense to you, that's what actually matters. If you can't portray it, it's like that's bad. Or not necessarily bad. It's like, oh, I can't portray it. I'm sorry. But at the end of the day, like all it has to do is make sense to you, because
Yeah.
that's the value you're gonna get out of it. There's some ideas that I can spit out to other people. I'm sure they're gonna be like, I'm never talking to you again. But it's like the reason why I am the way I am is because I have these types of ideas. It's just we're not on the same wavelength. Going back to that
Right.
comparison, and I know that we're not on the same wavelength, and I know what happens if I try to bring you on my wavelength, or I can guess, right?
Right.
So
Yeah.
again, see, like now we can understand each other a lot better just because you brought up this idea of wavelength, and in my mind, that actually, like, going back to this idea of a system design, all I did was take how I process my usual thoughts and I put in wavelength, right? And now I process things and the output is talking in the sense of wavelength. And in my mind, like I can see that. I can see the diagram in my brain. I'm like, cool, there you go.
Yeah, because it's like, because how I see it, like when it used to happen with the kid's mother, right? And it happened a lot. And it was just like, like the only thing I can remember is The Last of Us, whatever, like when there's like a receiver thing and you're trying to like say, hey, can anybody hear me? And you're like broadcasting your signal, trying to see if anybody else is on that same signal. That's kind of like where I'm getting it from. So it's just like, if you're trying to communicate with somebody and they're not hearing you, you have to like turn it. You're getting static until eventually they need to be doing this for your input. And you probably need to be doing it for yours. So until you both match, like, then that's when it's clear.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
until then,
Yep.
you're getting static and feedback and white noise and all that stuff. And so that's kind of like when I'm trying to explain something to someone, that's how I take it. Like I don't get upset. I'm just like, okay, how can I put this so that you can absorb it?
Yeah.
Right.
Yep. And that's a skill, though, to be honest. Like, okay, going back to this matching of the wavelengths, you're turning the knob one way, they're turning the knob the other way, right?
Right.
But you'll develop a skill and you can assume which way they're turning, and so you'll turn it that way to try to catch up.
Yeah.
Some people are just like, I don't care, right? It's up to you to find me, or I just want to
Right.
touch it, you find me, right? So there's no effort on their part, and you're putting in all the effort.
Right.
And that adds stress to you. And I think a lot of people don't realize that like this type of communication and stuff is two-way. Like in order for you to get to where I'm thinking, I have to do as much work to get to where you're thinking and vice versa. That makes
Right.
sense. Yeah.
Yeah. There's so much that goes into communications. And I think that that's a lot, like that incompatibility. There is a lot of things that make relationships go wrong, right? Like, just to give this is kind of going on to a different subject, but like relationship compatibility, I think is a big thing. And I was watching this, her name is Teal Swan, and she was talking about it last night. But anyway, I was thinking about my friend. She was dating this dude, and, she was apparently supposedly all in love with the guy, right? But he seemed like the kind of person that threw money at an issue to fix it, right? And there's love languages supposedly that there's like 5 or 6. One of them is like gift giving and receiving
Yeah.
gifts or something like that, right?
Yep.
And like so there's all those different compatibilities, and apparently she had the kind of love language where, hey, he's saying, don't worry about it, babe, I got you, I'll take care of it, here's money, you need money, here's something new, here's a new Louis Vuitton bag, all that. Like to me, all that's bullshit, right? Because anybody can do that to make somebody happy. If all I got to do is throw money at the situation, then it's a transactional relationship, right? And it makes it super easy. But so anyway, he ended up like leaving her and going to date this like Instagram chick. She got like 70,000 followers, blah, blah, blah. She thinks that he's dating her, right? Because she's putting 2 and 2 together. And I'm just like, okay, so you were all in love with this dude, but give me an example of something that he did that didn't involve money that showed that he loved you. And she was like, the only thing she could say was like, well, he was always there for me. Like he came and took care of my like my tire when it was flat and this and this and that. And I'm like, so you were dating this dude for like a year and a half, and the only example of what you can give that show that you guys really had a connection with, that he came and fixed your fucking tire. I was like, I don't
Yeah.
understand like why you're about to jump off the bridge for this dude. If it sounds like you had a superficial relationship, he's in the strip club all the time. Like every other day he's in a strip club, whatever. And he would come back and try to get with her after the strip club. She's like, I don't want to be with you after you come from there. So she's like, it's been 2.5 months or something like that since you broke up with her. I understand everybody's got to go through their grieving process to get out of a relationship or any kind of connection. But, you know, I was just like, you guys have a relationship incompatibility, or maybe you have a communication thing. Like, you didn't understand that he just threw money at situations, and as soon as you don't fit what, he's giving money to the situation, as soon as you're not outputting back what he wants, he's gonna go find another place to input his money to get what he's gonna find another vending machine.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
He's gonna go find another vending machine, and just like the different incompatibilities that I hear, like there's a lot of people that are in relationships, me included, that just do not fit. And you think that it's supposed to be like, I know not to get into your stuff, but I know one thing that you said was like something that was good for you is like, you like to stay inside and your partner likes to stay inside too.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Like that's perfect.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
If you have somebody that you like to stay inside, you make your home happy so that you can be in there all the time, because it's costing you $2,500 a month to stay in this place. But the other person's like, I want to go do things. I want to go buy things. I want to go out. That's like a foundational incompatibility.
Yeah.
And so I just find that super interesting. And I could go on and on and on about it, but that's just the last part I want to talk about was the different kind of incompatibilities, wavelengths of trying to speak and communicate with people.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, again, the whole idea of like, how do you know that? Like, you talk about the love languages. You know, I found out about that like this year. I found out there were love languages, right? So you're learning things that make sense and help you build. I won't say more. It'll help you build more stable relationships with that understanding. But you don't learn it until like now. Like, that's ridiculous. And I guarantee you, if I heard that when I was a kid, I'd be like, whatever, I don't care.
Right.
So it was like, it's just like a lose-lose situation, right? You're like, you're destined to learn it later in life, just because, like, going back to the idea of wavelength, it's just like way out there. It's just way above because,
Yep.
But
so if I try to change it down to my kids and have to say some of these concepts to them, I have to break it down into a way that they understand it. Like sometimes I even have to talk about Roblox and put it in that kind of context, you know, just so that they could grasp it. Because I want them to have these understandings early on to try to give them at least, you know, like one thing I might say to my daughter, I was like, make sure that if you, I'm like, when you get your little boyfriend, she's like, ew, I don't want a boyfriend. I'm like, okay, yeah, I know you're saying that now, but say whoever your partner is, right? Male, female, whatever, I don't care. Right. But my point is, you know, you never want to just tolerate someone. You don't want someone that you're just tolerating. You want to be with somebody that you love being with. And I try to give them those kind of concepts, but I have to put it in a way like, so that it can, you heard the first block. The first block is like, ew, boyfriend, like, ew, kissing, right? So you have to like still find a way to inject that stuff in there without you know, turning them off from it. So it's crazy. Being a father, I think, has given me a ton of different just perspectives that I didn't have previously.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's like every experience leads you to like different crazy paths, and it's just like there's so much to it. And again, it goes back to this whole podcasting. I've learned so much from this podcast, just this 2 hours, right, that have helped me process like the understanding of self a lot better, or like at least reinforce, right? Where I'll spend 40 hours in my job, and the best I get is money back. You know what I mean? I'm like,
that's right. Wait, it's been 2 hours?
Hasn't it been? Dude, I swear it's been longer than 2 hours, bro.
Wait, when did we start? I thought we started.
Didn't we start like?
Okay, maybe we talked. Maybe we talked for like an hour and then started recording.
I
can't tell how many times.
2:15.
Okay.
Oh, so we started at like 2:15.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. All right. So yeah. Do you have to go? What do you want to do?
Yeah. Probably. I mean, this is probably a good place to cut.
Okay.
Yeah, because I still gotta eat. But yeah, man. I mean, We should do more of this. Like, to be honest, like this is the stuff that I want to start shifting toward. And don't get me wrong, I love the tech stuff. I still want that as a part of some of the
Right.
stuff that I do, but because of where I am now and like my perspective on life, this is the topics that I want to focus on because it's just
Yeah.
in my mind learning this